Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I am your host, Miss D. And as you know, here on the show, we get pretty comfortable being uncomfortable. We talk about all the rawness and all the raw mess. Joined every week with some pretty dope friends and guests, we unleash all there is to know on surviving adulthood, and we discuss different topics related to cultures, controversies, sometimes a little bit about love, sometimes even sex. And we definitely oftentimes discuss relationships and relationships. Join me. We have juicy conversations, friendly debates, and sometimes intriguing discussions. So thank you for joining us on another episode, and I hope you enjoy the show. Started. All right, welcome back, everyone, to another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I am your host, Miss D, and today I am bringing you what you guys have been asking for. I actually received a review not so long ago that specifically said they love my show, but they want to hear more men. And so, what better way to do this than to bring strong men voices to the table for discussion and great conversations? And so on today's show, I am bringing you someone with a very strong voice in this podcast industry, someone that I've been listening to for quite some time. And I don't want to say what I did with this podcast, but I didn't do it with them, but I went to a specific location for them. I'm going to let you guys know on that a little later. But here today with me is the very one and only Jeff from Introverted Intuition Podcast. Welcome to my show.
I've never been introduced like that, or
Ooh.
even at all. Thing. Like I introduced myself on my show in like ways that's kind of like braggadocious and crazy, but like, wow, that felt good. Thank you for that introduction.
Oh my God, of course. No,
That's very good.
I told you from day one that so from day one that I met Jeff. So I'm going to take it back. I don't know if you remember how I came across your podcast, but I
I do.
remember. You do? Do you? Do you remember
Yeah, I
how?
remember you.
Okay. So I followed another podcast, and you guys happened to be a guest on their pod, and you
Right.
spoke so deeply on a topic that was going on this particular podcast. And it's ever since then that I've been following your show. And this was probably what, September, October-ish?
It was October actually. It was like we did that episode the day before my birthday.
Yes. It was in October 2019. And then it turned out that your pod was having their first live show. And it
Right.
happened to be around my birthday. And I
Oh
was
wow.
like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it. You know, some of my friends had planned out some stuff for me. And then it turned out that we were able to make it to your show, to your first live show. Am I correct? It was the
Yeah.
first one. And it was at the studio where you guys record. And it was my first podcast live show. It was my first one. I had never been to a live podcast show. Did I ever tell you that?
No, I didn't know it was your first one.
It was my first one. Yes. So I went with my best friend. We had plans that night. My best friends had plans to take me out for my birthday. And, you know, when outside was open, it was perfect with the timing, perfect with the agenda of the day. We were able to catch a show. And I would like for you to just share with my listeners a little bit of what, you know, the show is about, what, you know, the show brings to the table, so they could better understand why we have you on the show today.
Okay, I'll start with like the purpose of the show and like the reason why it exists and how it exists. So for me, like I suffer from depression and anxiety, like really deeply, like really deep rooted things. And I have a bunch of different escapes that I use to get out of like those depressive states. And from music, I enjoy playing video games sometimes, not as much anymore. I enjoy to read, and I love to listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I started listening to podcasts around 2014. That was like really the height of that was like the peak of my depression. I was in college at the time. I was still trying to figure out what I was trying to do. I was going from job to job. And I discovered my first podcast. It was actually a podcast from the wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I didn't like it. But I liked just the idea of what a podcast is. You could just speak freely and you have long drawn out conversations about whatever. And then I discovered the Brilliant Idiots podcast with Charlamagne tha God and Andrew Schultz. And I listened to them from 2014 all the way till now. And during that time, like around 2014, 2016, a good friend of mine at the time, we were both we got into that podcast and podcasting around the same time, and we were just really inspired because the way they have their conversations early on in them when they started their show was just so free flowing, so organic and just fun. And our conversations were kind of similar to that at the time. And yeah, like the podcast was helping me so much in terms of my depression, and I could relate to it with my friends. We decided to just start our own around that time. The podcast around that time was like strictly influenced from the Brilliant Idiots. It wasn't anything original. It was just strictly influenced by that, and it was kind of, it mimicked that. But going into the creation of the podcast, my main purpose was to create the same feeling for other people that podcast gave me, that escape, that healthy escape from depression. And yeah, that's what it's been the entire time. It's gone through different transitions and phases of what we talk about in the content and even the host. What it is now, I think it's in the best shape it's ever been. And the mission is still what it is to this day, to help people.
Absolutely.
And to fast forward to November 2019, when the first live show happened, like a live podcast was just an idea. Like that's what everyone, I feel like every person who does a podcast is what they dream of doing, is speaking for the crowds.
Right.
It's funny, I dreamt of that, but I was still like really nervous and shy and introverted. Like the name isn't just for show. Like I am an introvert. I do identify as one. But yeah, that was just an idea that I had. We had the resources, we had the leverage, the influence, and it just worked out. We sold out our first live show.
Yeah.
You came to
Yes.
the crowd itself wasn't like filled with seats, but a lot of people bought tickets and bought tickets out of love and just supported it off of love. So that's what helped us sell it out. And yeah, it was an amazing thing.
I don't know what show you were at because it looked to me like a receipt was taken. If I remember correctly.
No, I remember specifically we sold like 30 tickets, and I think there was maybe like, I don't remember how many people actually showed up, but it was
definitely more than 20.
It was
definitely more than 20 because I remember that. I was like, I kept seeing people coming in too, even when you guys started the show. You know, that's what was pretty dope, because it's like, even though you guys started the show, everyone was just able to just come in, listen to what you were saying. It's like they didn't even skip a beat. They didn't miss anything because the conversation was just so relatable for everyone on so many different levels. And that's what I absolutely enjoy of your show. I listen to you every single week that you drop an episode. No, absolutely. Please. Like, listen, there's just some pods that are gems to me. So this is one of them. And what I loved about it the most, and what I still love about it the most now, is one of the things, you know, when we first started getting to know each other, as me being interested in starting a podcast and you having a podcast already, we had spoken mostly on social media. It was very intriguing to learn of what your purpose was and a little bit about that background with the show itself and how it helps so many people, because it does help a lot of people. There were people there at the live show who were able to share their stories with you guys as well. You gave that open mic for your audience to speak on how they relate to the purpose of the show and the platform itself. And even though it is surrounding, and I'm gonna segue into what, you know, if anybody knows Double Dose of Raw Talk, I always have a little game to play of some sort. Even though, you know, when you think of mental health, there's always like this idea, right? I'm gonna say the word, like the stigma. But I find it that your show just makes it is kind of like an escape. At least for me, it is. There's times that, you know, even when I'm having my bad days, I'm able to still have a good time listening to your show and listening to the conversations you guys have, while still being able to, I want to say, remedy the purpose of mental health for a lot of the listeners. So I definitely appreciate it. And, you know, I'm going to do my little, guys, please go listen to Introverted Intuition at the end of the show. But it's definitely one of my faves. So absolutely.
And I just want to clarify, like the podcast, like it isn't a mental health podcast. Like we speak about it openly and a lot because this is what me and my co-hosts, like, and the guests that we have all identify with. But we won't always talk about it. We'll like talk about like our weeks, our crazy weekends, whatever, like whatever we feel like talking about. But it's meant to provide an escape, so you're not thinking about whatever you're experiencing.
Exactly. Exactly. Which again, that's exactly why I love this pod, and that's exactly why I love tuning in, because sometimes we do need that. I need it, and I have shared a little bit on my own platform. I have a therapist. I see a therapist every week. There's things that we all deal with that no one really knows about because maybe we are just so good at showing a different face or just continue on with life. And no, not everybody needs to know all of that information, but some of us do share it, and we share it with the purpose of we still push through, right? So I definitely want to segue. Thank you for, the background on the show for my listeners. I
Of
want to
course.
segue into, I had shared with you that I wanted to share some myths that I have heard about depression and anxiety, mental health in its totality. And I had shined some light during Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't know if you're aware of this, and my listeners are very much so aware of it. I had found a way to bridge the gap between mental health awareness and the fact that it was also the month of masturbation, because a lot of people, resort to
Sure.
that as a therapy. But there are there's myths around the whole depression and anxiety, right? And so one of those that I did share with you, just to give you an idea of what I wanted to talk about, before we segue into my segments. One of them is, actually, I've heard this a lot, and let me just say this: I did not reference this in no resource. This is actually shit that I've listened to when I was growing up. This is things that I heard, in whether it be just because it's been my culture or because of my upbringing, but I've heard this stuff
Okay.
being said to me, to other people. So the first statement was actually, "Oh, you can't be depressed. You're out having fun with your friends, drinking, dancing, and socializing." Have you heard of that before?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Plenty of times. Like it's
Mm,
hard. It's like I don't really like comments like that. It's like people who say that, in my opinion, don't really understand or have experienced true depression, because like you could be so depressed that you're in a state. At least for me, I'll speak for me. Like I'm really good at putting up a front. Like I
mm-hmm.
can smile all day, I can joke all day, but that's just me masking it. Because I don't. For me, with my depression, I don't ever really like to interact with anyone outside of my therapist for it, because I don't
Right.
want to be like that bother or put that burden on anybody else. So when people say stuff like that, it's just like you just don't get it. I mean,
I That's actually something I heard as I was growing up, and then it was once told to me. It was actually during the prime. Well, I'm not going to say the prime. The prime sounds so positive. It was not a positive time. It
mm,
was in the time when I was getting a divorce, and so I was trying to go back into the single life. And of course, I was hurt. I was very, very hurt. It was a hurtful moment. But I was 20, in my 20s. I was starting to go out. I was starting to go out with friends. I was starting to go have fun, socialize, right? Leaving the whole married life behind and being single again. And I was basically told, I needed to stay put. I was a mother. I shouldn't go out. And then when I would reveal that I was struggling with depression, or I would make comments on it, it was very much so like, impossible. You're going out, you're drinking, you're socializing, you're having fun. Like, that's
mm,
not true. You're lying. And so I too didn't understand it then. And at some point I questioned it myself, like, well, maybe I'm not depressed. Maybe I
yeah,
am perfectly fine and I just think I am. And it wasn't until I started seeing a therapist that the therapist helped me understand, no, you are depressed. Just because
yeah,
you go out and just because you socialize and just because you're trying to distract yourself a little bit doesn't make you any less depressed. You're still depressed. And I find it that, for one, it is that people don't understand, but two, it's also disrespectful to kind of like just diminish of the feeling someone has, even if it is of depression. And I think that's where it leads to some of us not feeling, I'm gonna say some of us, at least me speaking as a woman, um, don't feel comfortable even saying out loud that,
mm,
oh, I've been dealing with depression, because a woman is just supposed to be strong and not supposed to ever say that. So that was one of my struggles. Another myth, correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you've never heard it, I'm pretty sure everyone has in life.
mm.
It's I don't have time to be depressed. Have you heard that statement?
Uh, yeah, I've said that.
Oh.
Um, like, it's like when you have like, for me, like it took me a while to figure out what I was good at. It took me a while to figure out like what my goals were in life,
Mhm.
and I feel like I wasted a lot of time up to this point. Up to that point, but when I did, and I was still dealing with my depression, I felt like I had already wasted enough time previously. It's like I don't have time to be depressed. I don't have any time for distraction because it took me so long to get to the pathway where I can actually lead myself to success and happiness. It's like I don't really feel like I have time. And just time as a concept, I just feel like sometimes people think, like, I go back and forth with this. I feel like life is as long as you want it to be. Life is as long as you make it, as long as like the type of energy you put out is positive and productive. But then it's like you see examples like every day that like life is short, right?
Right.
It's like you don't have time. So I do battle with the concept of time a lot, and I have said that many times. But yeah, it's just like not having time is just it's something I feel like I've said one too many times. But I'm sorry, I like went on a tangent. I'm
No,
sorry, I like
no,
lost my train of thought.
but it actually makes
But
sense. It does make sense what you're saying. It does.
yeah,
I happen to understand what you're saying because it's like, first of all, the fact that New York City life is fast enough, right? But it's like, do you even have time to actually take a deep breath and reflect on how you're feeling, or what is it that's going on around you? You know what I mean? I used to hear my mom say, and my mom, she speaks on it so freely now. I used to hear my mom say that all the time. I don't have
yeah,
time to be depressed. I have you kids to raise. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. And then her health started getting affected by it.
hmm
And she was pretty young when her health first started becoming very, very concerning to us. And that's something that I think about all the time. I'm a single mom. So my son has me. And
right,
so when I think of tomorrow's never promised, right? You got to make each day count. You have to make the best of it. You have to live for today. But at the same token, it's like 24 hours a day used to look so beautiful once upon a time, and now it's just not enough. How do I give up 30 minutes of that day to even sit down and cry or let out a release or just reflect on something and just let it all out? You know what I mean? And so now I understand why my mom would say, I don't have time to be depressed. I don't have time to cry.
right. And I was actually like I feel like I was working myself into a point. I used to really admire people who have no concept of time. They just
Mm,
wake up every day and they don't know what day it is, know what month it is, and they just go and they just do put their all into them into their craft and whatever they
mm,
do each day. But and I was working towards that life, but like with quarantine and having to like just stay home every day and just I found myself locked on social media and it's just like I'm reminded like I was like living with ignorance a bit before quarantine, before like the recent racial injustices were like so prevalent and
mhm,
like in front of my face every day. I was always aware, but I was living with a bit of ignorance that it didn't deter me from like my goals and my focus, right? So
mhm,
I I'm like reminded that as a black man in America, like your time could be up at any moment.
mm.
And it's like now I'm like fearful of every day. Like I acknowledge every bit of every minute of each day, every second of each day. And I have appreciation for those minutes and seconds and minutes of each day, hours of each day. But it's like I'm like reminded every day that my time could be up. And it's like I really feel like I don't have time to slack. I don't have any more days to like put stuff off. I have to go as hard as I can every day before
Mhm.
my time is up.
So I'm definitely going to dig deeper on that, and you know that on the As Raw as It Gets segment, because I did send you my notes. All of my listeners know I have agendas and notes for Omega. So
That's
um
dope.
I'm
You're
going to
we're way more organized than I am.
No, you're lying.
We don't have notes. We just go.
Okay, this part is embarrassing to me because some people are like, "Oh, I got the agenda, Daisy."
Yeah.
Listen, this is how I function. This is the best I could do for myself. Like it's kind of like the way I keep myself a little sane.
Yeah.
Which is everything that's going on. It's just been this has definitely helped. But before we go into the segment and I dig a little deeper on that, since you openly share it with me, the last myth I wanna shine some light on. I know you are familiar with the whole anxiety piece as well. So this is more of it's a myth, but it's a true or false question. Anxiety being the same for everyone. Palms sweaty, temperature rising, heart beating fast. True or false?
For me, that's what it is. I mean, my palms do get sweaty. I feel like a heaviness on my chest. The people I've talked to that really deal with anxiety
Mm-hmm.
say that's true.
You say that's true?
Yeah.
So I definitely say it's true because it seems like every single person as well that I've been able to share the anxiety effect. They've
Right.
definitely shared that that's definitely what has happened to them even before they've been able to identify that
Yeah.
they have been suffering from anxiety. I do know one person that actually shared with me once. I'm not going to say no names. Everybody knows on this platform I don't incriminate anyone. That person actually shared with me that she discovered her immediate reaction in an anxious moment was to start crying just
Mm,
out of nowhere. That would happen to her. And she said she thought it was just like it was either triggered by fear most of the time or some form of anger. But when she started seeking therapy, her therapist said, no, that's actually how you're reacting with your anxiety attacks. You start to cry. And
mm,
so she was able to figure that out. And at that point, it was a moment for her to control, just find a balance in controlling her emotions, and to learn how to anticipate them coming to have more control over them, which that has been the only person that I've heard to have something a little bit different from the palm sweaty, the chest tightness, the temperature rising and the heart beating fast. But I always like to talk about these because I think a lot of people sometimes deal with these type of symptoms and feelings, and they're not necessarily identifying them as, oh, maybe I am a little anxious, or maybe it is a little bit of anxiety, and so it takes over them, and it's a pretty disturbing feeling. I don't know if you've had I think you once said you did anxiety attacks, because I suffered from them for a very long time.
uh, I think I had one the last week. It's
Oh,
like I kind of like black out in those moments. Like
okay.
no, like actually like 2 days ago I had one actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, bad.
Yeah. See, I didn't
Uh,
even know. I'm over here asking him these questions and I didn't even know he had one.
no, I mean I like to
Black
talk about it. Like I
translate.
don't
Yeah,
really
I
talk
know.
about it. Like I mean I try not to talk about it as much. I'm gonna talk about it on the podcast,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm trying not to not talk about it because just
got it.
holding it in is just
Hmm.
not help. It's not helping anybody.
So I just want to go over those little myths, those little true or false little myths that, I come across
That was
often.
great.
No, and listen, what's the sad part? I still hear those things. Like even today, even with mental health awareness, even knowing what we know as a society, I still hear them. And one of the terms that gets thrown around a lot, and listen, I'm guilty of it of sometimes saying it, is the term crazy. If somebody comes and trusts someone with, oh, I'm dealing with this, oh, that sounds crazy. Like, sometimes you got to be a little careful. You know what I mean? I hear that too often. So it still gets to me because I know that was definitely one of the reasons I held back in sharing with people what I was experiencing. So we're going to segue into the first segment, as raw as it gets. As you guys know, this segment is usually where we cover things that are happening in the news, controversies, culture shit, or even information regarding social media. And sometimes I go a little deeper on relationships, love, and sex. But today we're going to focus on, or maybe we might go into those tangents. I don't know. We're going to go into the title of this segment. I'm naming it as Our Mentals During 2020.5 because it's only been half the year and it feels like forever.
Tell me about it.
It's disgusting. That's my new phrase, Jeff. All week I've been saying it's disgusting. I've been telling everyone it's disgusting. I have no explanation for it. So we know, despite there being an entire month dedicated to mental health awareness, like I did say before, and you did dig a little deeper into, how you've been feeling lately with everything that's going on right now, which has been going on, but it's been right in front of us
Right.
constantly with so much of the activity being posted all over on social media, especially. There's still so much stigma surrounding depression and anxiety. And we know what your platform and your show serves as a purpose. And you guys already know, I think it's one of the best platforms I listen to. But I want to dig deeper onto this journey and how it pertains to what we are going through right now. And what is it that keeps you going as far as the motivation goes and pushing forward, because you have listeners, you have a community of listeners that turn to your pod to escape, right? And with everything that's going on in the world right now, what feels like we just survived a pandemic, but this pandemic is still going on. And all the movements, the movements that's happening right before us. How is it that you push through to that?
Like at first, originally, like I didn't want to do it at all because I mean the podcast was meant to be a healthy distraction, but I felt like there weren't any distractions needed. I didn't want to take away from any movements or awareness. But then I just realized, I just really sat to myself one day and just realized like this is what the platform is for. Like there are
Mm-hmm.
people out there who are maybe seeking more information, or there are people who just need that break. Like they're just on social media all day scrolling and on the news all day. and seeing all this, and they just need to hear a perspective that they trust and that they already listen to and that they like. They just need to hear like that voice that's going to tell them what the news isn't telling them. Like, I guess the real, like an honest perspective, a relatable one. And I just started owning my platform. Like, I never really looked at it the way like people like you who enjoy it. I don't look at this show like that, but I kind of had a point where I was just like, this podcast means a lot to people. It's helped a lot of people. A lot of people have told me it's helped them, it saved them. And outside of doing it for the people, it was really for me. Like, just like everybody else, I'm inside, I'm working from home. I'm on social media 24 hours a day, having anxiety attacks, crying my eyes out, watching all these people get hurt and injured. And it's just like, it's really affecting me. And I need my own outlet to get it out. So what's keeping me going is the fact that I'm helping other people, the fact that my platform matters and is an escape for people, and the fact that I keep going because it helps me.
You shine some light on something that was actually a conversation I had one episode ago, I believe it was, with another podcaster. And it was just a general topic of men crying. It's okay for men to cry. That's something that's been so like, oh, we just don't do that. Definitely not in my culture and not in my background. And I think we've had conversations about this, how that's something I've totally been against for as long as I can remember. When you share that, everything that's been going on has affected you this much, and yet you push forward and you push through, you find your time to release, to let it all out. Is that something that you thought, because you've been transparent? I've been listening to the most recent episodes. You have been transparent and sharing where your emotions are and where your feelings are. Is it something that you've received some good feedback on? People have actually said, thank you for this.
Yeah, like pretty much every episode, there's like some sort of message or email that someone thanking or appreciating.
Mm-hmm.
And can you just tell by looking at the numbers that people are listening? Like, even without the response, just I can see that people are listening all the way through.
Right.
That's enough. Like, you don't have to say anything to me as long as you're listening. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
That's enough for me.
Where do you see the new normal going? The new normal of how we're all well, for me it's participation, how we're all being aware, going along and supporting these movements, pandemic, what the industry we're both in, the industry we both have a passion for in our own ways. Where do you
Yeah.
see the new normal going? Because one of the things I kind of got stuck with was, I have a platform, but how do I make it in a purpose to what the reality is in life, and continue to support what I believe I'm supposed to, because I believe in it so strongly.
Right.
And I felt like, is in my place. I'm feeling stuck. How do I do this? How do I do this the right way? How do I join that support that I know people who I respect, people who I have love for, people who I love, they need that. You know what I mean? How is it that this new normal looks like for Jeff, and what the purpose is for you?
Like, the purpose of the podcast.
The purpose of the podcast and the purpose for Jeff, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
I know Jeff has a whole purpose.
Right. I mean, that's a great question. Like,
Don't
I
hurt
don't
me,
know.
Jeff.
Like, I don't know really I don't really know even where we go from here. Like,
Mhm.
I'm still kind of trying to adjust to what this new normal is. Like,
Mhm.
so I really don't know. I mean, I know for me, like, I can adapt pretty easily.
Mhm.
Um, Being that I'm an introvert, I'm an only child. Like, the idea of being home doesn't bother me that much.
Mhm.
Um, the idea of I don't know. It's really interesting because it's like the world is changing every day. Like, there's new cases of the corona. There's another black man fucking killed every day. Another black
Mhm.
woman got missing. It's just like, I don't really know where I'll end up by the end of this year. Like, I just don't know. I mean, I can hope that things will get better and things could go back to whatever normal was
Mhm.
previous to this. But I just know for me, I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop being in tune and being aware
Mhm.
of what's going on. I'm not sure if that answers your question. It's kind of hard
It
to answer.
no, it does answer the question. Because I think what you're I and correct me if I'm wrong, but the simple fact that you're saying you're not going to give up, I think that's exactly what it really is about, not giving up. Whether it is living through a pandemic, whether it is continuing a fight with an entire movement, and I'm going to say now movements, because it's been Black Lives Matter, but it's also been Black women's life matters. It's been all of that. We felt the need now to have to even separate them all because of everything that's happening,
Right.
and it just keeps happening. You know what I mean? So the fact that you're even saying, yeah, I don't know, but you're not going to give up. I think that's generally what we want to believe, that we're going to be able to continue pushing through, is that we're not giving up. And so
Right.
even if you don't know what the other 2020.5 is going to look like, I do think on the at the long distance, the view's pretty clear. You're not giving up. I don't know if that
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense.
that's my purpose, to just continue on, support, fight, protest, uh, create my way through this all. Like that's my
Mhm.
purpose. That's why I'm
Mhm.
here. Like, um, as soon as I figured out like what I was good at, this podcasting thing, like this writing thing, like I just can't let it go. I can't give it up. I can't stop it, and I can't stop living, because I want to see this through to the end. I want to help in any way I can to make sure my people come out on this,
Yeah.
uh, on the right end. So
Yeah.
that's my purpose, to be here.
You called it a writing thing. What's the writing thing?
Oh, like I'm a writer too. Like I just finished my first book,
Wait, is
and I've been,
seriously? Like,
yeah, like
you really
I've been,
finished?
yeah, I finished, and I've also been on the side. I haven't released anything yet, but I've been writing out my thoughts and about what's going on today.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. So, confession, listeners, I kind of knew this was already happening, but I was hoping he would dish it out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I haven't
something.
put anything out yet, but I'm
Okay.
just too scared.
You're hesitant.
Yeah, I'm really scared to put my writing out. It's different from a podcast. Like my thoughts can just go, and I just won't care how people perceive them. But writing, it takes more thought. It comes from my heart. I mean, not
Yeah.
saying my words don't, but sometimes I
Yeah.
just fall off the handle and just say shit. But I mean everything I say. But my writing is it's more personal to me for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something we definitely talked about and we shared. And I had told you that my long-term goals would be to write my book, but I feel you 100% on that, because being on the mic, it's so different from when I sit down and I start the writing, and I'm nowhere near chapter 2. But um it feels like forever. I am very happy for you that you finally got to that place to say I finished my book, because
Yeah,
just getting through those lines and actually writing them is it's a lot to dig that deep. It's a lot to open up the mind that much further, besides just, speaking into the mic and putting out that content and saying, if anybody knows me, everybody knows I just say some shit sometimes. I don't take it back and I just blurt it out. But it
yeah,
is different when it's the book. It's totally
yeah.
different. So that's definitely something we talked about.
It's gonna come out this year, but it's just like I'm just I'm in the publishing phase right now. It's just I'm taking my time. I'm not in any rush.
That's amazing. Look at you. That's
Yeah,
yeah, we got to know each other in October. And I
right.
remember that was in the plan for you. Like you set that as a plan and you said, "Oh, I'm working on this. This is coming. Look at this."
And you know what's funny? Like that I was writing around that time. That was like a different phase of my book. Around like December or January, like I had lost everything I'd written up to that point. That was like 2 years worth of work. My laptop had like crapped out, and,
Oh,
and I started over in January. I remember mid
oh my
January,
God.
and then I wrote the entire thing from like January to like last month.
Wow.
Again, it was yeah. So,
Oh my God. That just hurt my chest.
it was. I remember it being in a Best Buy parking lot, throwing the broken laptop on the ground, screaming because I was just so frustrated. It was a bad day. It was a dark time.
Oh my God. Do you actually remember the actual date this happened?
I don't remember the date. I remember
Okay.
the weather. I remember what I was wearing. It was a bad day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally. Oh my God. No, I feel for you. But I'm glad that you still got it done. I'm glad that you finished it. I cannot wait till it gets published. You already know I'm gonna want a signed copy. So keep that in mind. Put it on the list of everybody else who's asked for a signed copy. I'm gonna want it. Being that you said you actually had to start writing this book again and you just finished it up until last month, I'm going to safely ask if that's definitely helped you get through, all the recent stuff that's been happening, and what else has helped you with that. I know you've mentioned in your recent episodes, and anybody who follows Jeff, and I will definitely include his IG handle on the show description. You love the gym. I've been missing the gym like crazy. So there's
Yeah.
times I cry for the gym. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what else have you been doing to keep yourself, it's one thing the motivation, is another to keep yourself busy, to keep yourself, with the physical, and just keep, what is it that you've been doing with that?
Well, I haven't really been working out.
Okay.
I mean, I have like a bike that I use like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, but
Okay. Okay.
um, I've been reading a lot more. I've been trying to pick up some new trades, like learn some new things.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I've mostly been reading. Like I've been reading about the most recent book I'm reading is called Powernomics by
Okay.
Dr. Carl Anderson. It's like a his version of a plan to a plan to empower. What is it? It's a his version of a plan that Black people can use to empower themselves further in America. And it's like a
Nice.
really detailed plan. I've been reading. I've been really learning to like get better at video editing. I've been really just being curious and just trying shit. That's what
Uh,
I'm doing.
okay, that's good.
But I do have my lazy days, and I've been watching a lot of movies. Uh, I write a lot. Like outside of like the book, I've been working on a script for like a screenplay for like the longest time. Um, and that's really it. Like I just been like I've been trying not to like put the pressure on myself, because I feel like, I'm not sure if you're on Twitter or just social, like how active you are or your listeners are on social media, but you may
Hmm.
have seen like a post or a comment that people have been saying like early around the beginning of the pandemic. They're saying, make sure you come out of this pandemic like stronger, like to learn something new or like
Hmm.
better than you were when you came in. And that really got in my head for a bit. And that's why I've kind of been doing new things. But I've been learning to not put as much pressure on myself every day.
Hmm.
Been trying to be like as still as possible and just relaxing as much as I can too.
Hmm.
So I've been trying to keep that balance of relaxation and productivity.
I just want to say that I did see that post and I did feel all the pressure from it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, but when I launched the podcast, it was in the beginning of the pandemic on March 17th. That
Oh
is
shit. I didn't know
literally, that was literally when we went into quarantine, literally.
that. Goddamn.
And I felt all the pressure of that post. I'm not even gonna lie. I felt all the pressure. Yet at the same token, it's so bad to say this, but I don't know if I would have been able to have the beginning that I did with this show if I had not been home,
Right.
and being able to work from home and still being able to balance out working from home, my 9 to 5, and pushing forward with content and forward with raw talk conversation about everything and anything. You know what I mean? So at the same token, I didn't think it was fair for a lot of people, to read that and to feel the pressure if they were not in a right headspace or if they were not going through something great. For instance, I felt the pressure of, should I skip a week or not? I think I had shared this with you. I don't recall, but I shared it with a few people. I lost several family members to COVID back to back. And part of me felt like, maybe I should take a back seat. Part of me felt like, maybe this is not the time. Why would I keep doing this? Family's probably going to be pissed if they see that I'm still putting out episodes. But then it was just kind of like, this became my outlet. This became my personal outlet. This became a way for me to keep just pushing forward, because what am I going to do? Just like get into that dark place? You know what I mean? We
Right.
couldn't even mourn right. It was a whole new way of mourning a family member's death at a distance or even virtually. So that in itself took a toll. But I want to believe that the little bit that I did listen to that post is that I was able to launch my pod and keep it going and keep pushing through it and learning certain ways of how to balance out having a 9 to 5 and
Mhm.
having a podcast. You said video editing. You're doing that yourself now?
Well, yeah, I just started like maybe I just really started like today, but
Okay.
I was dabbling in it like earlier in the month. I just wanted to make our clips look better and stuff. So.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, this is how you started the show, right? You started figuring it out how to do it, correct?
Yeah, can I grab a book that I read like
Of
real quick? Like
course.
wait, hold on.
Yes. Yeah, he's gonna give visuals that I'm not gonna show you.
So this is the book that I first read, the book of
Oh
Audacity.
man.
I read the entire, I don't know how many page book, almost 400 pages, whatever book, on how to use the audio program Audacity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I applied everything I learned and started doing it off my laptop at first.
You did it at home, right?
Yeah, I did it at home initially, and then I joined the studio like maybe like a year later.
What year was that book from? Like when did you get that book?
I think I got it a year before I started, so like maybe like 2015, and then I
Okay.
started podcasting. I think it was like 2016.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I already knew this, guys, but I wanted him to say it because I thought it was pretty dope because that's exactly how I was gonna start. I was gonna start from my living room. And that's exactly how I did start. I did not buy the book and I did not read 400 pages on it, but I took a different route in learning how to do this. And I commend you for reading 400 pages worth of Audacity because
It's
I don't know
fucked up
if
because like I really only had to read one chapter because there's one chapter specifically on podcasting, but I realized it like when I was like almost done, so I just read the whole book.
seriously.
Yes, fucked up,
Oh, that's
but
fucked up. I'm not
yeah,
tagging this book on the show description.
yeah. But this book changed my life. Like every time I look at this book, I get taken back to like those early days. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty dope part. Is like now you decided to, oh, let me see how I could better the videos, and once again here you are learning it yourself.
yeah,
So I think in a sense, here is the bright side of it all. You learning once again, teaching yourself new crafts, like you said, new trades. You're picking up on new things. There is a way to still keep yourself out of dark spaces. If we may even call it that, because I think that a lot of us, we have a platform to talk about things, but I know for a fact there's a lot of people that are not coping and are not dealing with the shit that's going on, and they are keeping it to themselves. Very
right.
much so. So I definitely wanted to dig deep on that. Is there what piece of advice? I'm only going to ask for one because I'm not going to ask you to give like a whole list of them, but one piece of advice that you would give to any one of Double Dose of Raw Talk listeners on, they listen to all the raw talk I could bring them, but the most realist piece of advice you could give them on coping methods, on facing the world. You've been doing this platform for so long, and through your experiences, you've been able to offer some form of advice, if we may call it that, to your listeners.
So we have a segment on my podcast called "Don't Sleep," where it's basically where we provide the audience with something you shouldn't sleep on. It could be something as simple as like advice, food, whatever. But so I think people shouldn't sleep on. They shouldn't sleep on the idea that things will get better. Like the reality that you create, regardless of what's going on, is all on you. Like if you're gonna think that things won't get any better, or these are the darkest days we'll ever see and we'll never get out, we'll never see the light, things won't get better, COVID won't go
Mm,
away, the racist people will never die,
mhm,
unfortunately. Like
mhm.
you just gotta just don't sleep on hope. Like just always keep the hope alive believe that things will get better. However you may do that, pray,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your medium is for hope, use that and maintain that and use that every day, because things will get better.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say to your listeners is just keep hope alive, maintain
Mm-hmm.
it, and
Mm-hmm.
keep going.
In the spirit of keeping hope alive, when are you guys back in the studio?
Uh, Probably next month. Like we're we're like kind of scared because I'm in Jersey.
Yeah. Oh,
My co-host
yes.
is in Jersey too. So we're like scared to like go back to the city, but the studio is open. So I'm thinking about going like next month, like once a month or something.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so wait, oh, that's right, you are in Jersey, you're right. But you guys are pretty usually like what New York is phasing into or doing, New Jersey is too. Am I correct on that?
Uh, yeah, slowly. I think so.
Okay.
Like, I think just as the same space as New York, but like I
Okay.
think we're probably gonna double back just like New York is because it's still bad.
Okay. I have to ask this question. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Who is the worst driver? New Jersey residents or New York residents?
Probably New York residents.
See, I disagree. I think it's New Jersey residents.
I don't
Worst
know. I just
drivers.
feel like New Jersey has more room to actually work with. Like, so like it's just easier for us to like have control over the entirety of the road. Like we have small back roads and then we have like big highways, whatever. So it's like we can find that balance and we can maintain.
This is like the first time someone actually gave me a legitimate supporting response to that question.
This is my
I
thing.
I fear for my life whenever I am on that New Jersey Turnpike. I cannot even lie to you. I fear for my life. And all the license plates are New Jersey, so I fear for my life. We're taking a quick break just to remind you guys that if you are ready to start your own podcast or even rebrand your current podcast, this is your chance. Idea to Launch Academy. Go to my show description. There is a link. Click on that link and you can do this within 30 days. It is a self-paced course. You do it on your time. And hey, this is how I'm here. This is how you are tuning in to listen to my platform, my show, my content. So, Idea to Launch Academy. Go to my show description and click on that link. You don't want to miss this chance. We're going to segue into my next segment, Double or Nothing. And in this segment, we keep it raw, and sometimes I go into a rant, but this is basically just one last moment to talk about some shit that happened. Mostly it's something that happened to me. In this case, what I'm going to call this is if you have nothing to say, nothing nice to say, shh, and you keep shut, right? This is actually something I did want to talk about. And I think you're the appropriate person to talk about it because something you had shared that it was a review you received. So I still consider myself a rookie in this industry and I still consider myself pretty brand new. And I have had to deal with the raw mess when facing that some supporters, some people who claim to support the craft and my show, my platform, were really not being supportive. And then I was kind of obsessing over that. I was I was very upset. I was reevaluating all sorts of relationships, right? Friendships, everything you could possibly think of, even if it was family too. And
Right.
then it dawned on me that maybe someday I've been receiving nothing but great reviews about my show from my listeners. And then it dawned on me maybe someday I'm going to come across some listener who's going to fucking tell me your show is trash. Like, I can't stand it. Don't talk. Get off the mic. And I
Yeah.
remembered you had posted, it was somewhat of it was a review. I know it was a review because I saw it, which I didn't like it, but that's neither here nor there. But you did post it and you shared on it. And if I remember correctly, you did go on to explain a little further what the purpose of the show was, which was part of the reason why I wanted to put it out there because every show is not relatable to everyone, but you just never know who it's going to be for and who it can help. With that being said, what are your words for me, for someone who's a rookie, for so many rookie podcasters who I happen to know, who we have a community amongst ourselves too, who is starting up and who may come across a bad review. You are at episode, now let me call it an episode, it's chapter 135. Am I right? I
Yeah,
am
yeah,
right. Okay. I'm only at this is going to be number 18. Like, what is your advice with that? Because I'm a firm believer, if you have nothing nice to fucking say, don't say shit at all. But we
yeah.
do ask for feedback. So what is your advice on that?
I don't know. Like, I could give you the best piece of advice, but like, I won't really abide by it because like I am sensitive. Like, I really do
Yeah.
like care about this, and like, if it's like an in-depth, like thought out negative review,
Mm-hmm.
then you can entertain that. But if it's something as if this like simple as like this show sucks or whatever, um, then just say fuck it. But like, to anyone who has a podcast, like new or old, like it's gonna come regardless. Like, and not everyone is gonna fuck with you. Not everyone's gonna like your show. Not everyone's gonna see your show how you see it.
Mm-hmm.
So just deal with it. Like, I think you would rather a show that's like, I mean, of course it would look good on paper. A podcast that is nothing but positive reviews, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
not people being honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm gonna tell you to just not give a fuck about it if you see it, but I really don't live like that because I care.
Because you
So
care.
yeah.
Do you respond? Like, I know you had posted something, but did you actually like respond to the reviewer in that particular instance?
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the show actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I wasn't happy, but whatever.
I know.
So
Do you ever like give, because I don't know if this has ever happened to you, and again, this is me just preparing for, I call it the worst, right? In the essence of having hope to everything, right? Even in this particular situation, I am someone who doesn't really give a shit about other people's opinions when it comes to me, when it comes to myself, whether it's, how I dress, how I look. I am someone, very transparently. One of the major things that I've dealt with from a depression standpoint was definitely, the body shaming. I've dealt with that. I've dealt with bullying. I've dealt with being a plus size woman and it not being to everyone's liking, say, right? And I do have the concept today of not giving a flying F as to who says what about me. I am the size that I am. I still work out. I still go to the gym. I still do whatever. But when it comes to the reviews, when it comes to this content, when it comes to all the work that I put into it, it's kind of like, okay, as much as I'm a bitch who doesn't give a fuck about a lot of what people have to say about me, I know I'm going to give a shit about a bad review. I know it's going to take a toll on me. And I haven't gotten one yet, but it was a reality to hear on other people's platforms when that does happen. And it was a reality to be able to hear the passion behind your reaction, even that, because how much work you put into this, how much of a dedication you have and the passion with the purpose that you have to your platform. And yeah, we know it's not for everyone. My whole thing is this: I know we ask for feedback, I know we want emails, I know we want the subscribers, the rates, and the reviews, but I also think that people should still take into consideration that if you have nothing nice to fucking say, don't say anything at all. That's just my opinion. I
yeah.
know it's easier said than for most to do it, but it is in my purpose that if you just have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all, because we do. And again, this is just me feeling it as a rookie. I'm pretty sure you have a better handle at this than I do, because I'm still getting my feet wet and I'm still starting up with this. But it's hard. It's really, really hard to find the balance in putting out a show, in thinking of what's next, what else are we going to bring to the table and to the mics, who else can we bring on. I'm a one woman show. I don't have a team here. I have staff meetings by myself. It's a lot of thinking, it's a lot of brainstorming, there's a lot of note taking, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I don't know if every listener who cannot relate thinks about that, takes that into consideration before they do go and write an atrocious review. Because this is why I'm not a person who goes on Yelp and trash talks a restaurant or a business. This is why I don't instinctively go and do that off the bat, because
Right.
there are people working hard for it. So you did tell me you did respond, and I knew you did. I just wanted you to say it. One last question about that. How do you push through with the morale? So for you, you're not a one-man show. You have you have a team for your show, right? How do you push through with the morale when you guys come across that? Like what does that look like? It's kind of like, you know how when the Avengers assemble, like,
Yeah.
is that how it looks like, or like how is it that you push through with that?
I mean, the show, like for a long time, was like 4 people, but now it's just down to 2. It's just
Okay.
me and my boy CR.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a bit easier. Like, I mean, even then, when it was before, but when we got that review, it was, we all expected it. Like, we all knew that was going to happen. So like, we just don't. They didn't really care as much. I'm the most reactionary, emotional person on the show. Like, that's just what it is. Like, I give a fuck too much about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And my team, at least the team in that time, during that time, like when it was the 4 of us, the 3 people I was with, they would always be the ones that center me and calm me down or whatever. But yeah, we just accept it. Like, we know it comes with the game, and we just move on.
Okay. I don't know if I can move on. I don't know if I could do that.
I'm
I
gonna
want,
respond to, like, if another one happens that really affects me, I'm gonna talk about it on the show and
yeah.
just get it off. But yeah, I'm always gonna be reactionary, no matter when the podcast is super successful. I'm still gonna react. I'm not gonna like talk about it every show, but like I'm gonna always react because I just care.
How have you been on the last piece of this rant, because in keeping the morale with your team when it comes to the podcast, when it comes to your personal space, and it comes to your unit? I always reference to a person's family, a person's, unit, their union. It's a unit to me, right? And it's how you keep that unit very strong. How do you keep the morale going there when it comes to your personal space, your loved ones? How do you keep the morale going with everything that's going on?
Um, we just by having conversations with each other, like, and just reassuring whoever I'm speaking to, whether it's family, partner, friends, like, um, that we are in this together. Like, we're not working against each other. We're not working separately from each other. We are all in this together, and that we have each other's backs no matter what. And we just always reassure each other or remind each other when they go out, just to, be careful. Don't move recklessly. Pay attention, be aware, and be safe.
Mm, okay. Future goal? Is there going to be another live show someday?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we had one planned for this year. It was perfect. Like,
Oh, I know. You said it.
it was supposed to happen actually around this time. Like, I was supposed to like speak at a few podcasting festivals and stuff. Like, I was supposed to do a lot. Like,
Were you
so
supposed to go to like another state too?
yeah, I was supposed to speak at this event in San Diego too.
Oh
I
man.
had so much planned, but yeah, future goals, another live show. Um, I want to speak at the podcasting festivals I was supposed to speak at this year. I wanna sign an exclusive deal.
Oh, I like these goals, Jeff. What, you was holding back on me this whole hour?
Yeah, I want to work with the people who inspire me in some way, and in the
Mhm.
podcasting, inside the podcasting game and outside of it. Yeah, I just want to be. I just want this podcast's influence. I want this podcast's purpose to be recognized by many more people, as many people as
Yeah.
possible. Be at the
Yeah.
top. I don't necessarily want to be at the top of the podcasting charts, but I want to be in people's hearts. Like, I
Yes.
want this to just be remembered. I want it to be mentioned in conversations. I want it to be known. So
Yeah. You see some, and listen, we all know who has hit those charts, and we all know in the podcast industry who has made it so big, right? But in getting to know these podcasts, and realizing, if for lack of a better word, their fame, right? Their, all their fans and the fan base that they have. I don't know, like how you said, like, yeah, not necessarily to the top of the charts. I'm with you on that, because I have hit the charts, but I much rather know that the people who are listening are actual listeners. I much rather know that they can actually relate, and they're listening because they actually do enjoy it and because it's making a difference for them, than
Yeah.
just, hitting these high numbers and followers or just hitting these high numbers and charts. You know, I could sit here and tell you, oh, when am I going to hit my 1,000 followers or my 2,000 followers? But are those 1,000 or 2,000 followers really listening to my show?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think you hit it right on the nose with that. And I want to be able to know that I'm touching someone's heart. Like someone's really, really listening and they really genuinely enjoyed the show.
Yeah, like I mean, my podcast, as far as I know, I don't think we've reached any charts, but like the podcast has been featured on like these top 10 or 15 lists,
Yes,
like
we
twice, like
have.
second
Yeah.
year in a row. It's like
I
done
saw.
a sold out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, like my podcast has done stuff that like isn't comparable to the top of the charts, but it still has made an impact. So like that's
Hmm.
enough for me.
Well, it's made an impact on me. And I told you that from the very beginning, ever since I started listening.
Thank you.
Again, I don't always talk about a lot of shit on this platform. I talk about it here and there. When I did Mental Health Awareness Month, I made it a little bit fun, with, you know, the woman taking care of her body, her soul, her spirit. But this time I do want to dive a little deeper when it comes to the health, mental, body, physical, soul, the whole nine. And so I definitely wanted to bring you on this platform because you are someone, like I said in the beginning, a very strong voice, in my opinion, in the pod industry, especially when it comes to your unique purpose on how you shine light in matters of depression and anxiety, something that I've been able to relate to. And I've been able to turn to your pod as an escape. I've been able to listen, to relate, and still have an enjoyable moment listening to the content and to those episodes. And that was definitely one of my hopes in bringing you on. I literally, as much as I had spoken to you in the past, like I genuinely professionally pitched to you to come on my show because I was like, no, I respect Jeff. I'm going to do this professionally in the right way.
By the way, like you made me want to step up my pitch. I have a really dope pitch email that I wrote, but like this, like you had like your flyer and stuff like that. That was dope. Like
I want to see yours now.
yeah, I'll send it or something
Like, I just
like
want
that.
to see it.
Yeah, like
No,
it's like
I
the point.
I
But
appreciate you so much for coming on my platform because, for one, like I told you, one of the reviews said they want to hear more men coming on the show. And the truth is, Raw Talk should not just be limited to women.
mhm.
There are plenty of strong male voices that can come on the platform to give it the raw talk that's needed, and you've definitely done that for me through your platform, and I'm glad that you came on here to share this with my audience. I am forever grateful to you. This is not always easy for everybody to talk about. I know it's hard for me sometimes, but I thank you for coming on this platform to share this. And do you want to just tell everyone just where they could find you? I'm definitely going to tag everything, but where they could find you, your pod, and you, of course.
Right. I'll just keep it strictly on the pod. I think my personal page is like on the podcast page too, but like
Okay.
subscribe to the Introverted Intuition Podcast on Apple Podcasts first. We're almost at 100 reviews. I would like to get that before the year's up. Follow us on Spotify. We're on Google Play, all that other shit, audio platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/introverted intuition. If you're interested in coming on the show as a guest, email us at introvertedpod@yahoo.com. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yes, and I'll include everything. I just always like my guests to say all that good shit. Y'all, just so you guys know, I love Libras. My sister's a Libra. Some of my closest friends are Libras. I happen to have very unique friendships with Libras. And that was one of the first things I took in meeting Jeff. Like, oh, he's a Libra. He's going to be dope. I know it.
Yeah.
And it definitely it has been. It's been a pleasure just professionally knowing you, meeting you in your first live show. I cannot wait till outside fully opens and you guys could definitely have a second live show. And I'm gonna be there because you guys are just, my notifications are on with you guys every week, all the time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. This has been another enjoyable moment with Double Dose of Raw Talk with your host, Miss D. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And when you leave the review, tell your friends, and then tell your friends to tell their friends, and keep telling them to keep telling all their friends. Nothing makes me happier than to read the reviews that you guys are leaving and the feedback I am receiving from my listeners. I have received suggestions on topics they would love for me to cover, and trust that I am reading those reviews and I am reading those suggestions and I am listening. So please feel free to contact me on my social media pages and the show's email. All my information is in the show description. Nothing would make me happier than to hear from you guys and to know what it is that you would love from my platform to cover on some raw talk. So let's talk about it. Talk to you next week. Bye.